Okay, stop. What is going on? I don't even know what we're doing anymore, and I'm just 100% in love with it. There, there's another card type in this game. It's a mentor. This is a mentor. What? What is going on? This is so crazy. Like I was ready. Like I was so excited for Monarch. I was looking forward to seeing like I don't know, some new classes or just some new heroes. But now we have a talent system and we have allies and we have like a brand new class that does things with auras like at instant speed on your opponent's turn and your turn. And now we have mentors. I'm losing my mind. I don't know what is going on anymore, and I love it. Every bit of this. Okay, so let's talk about this card type. This is a brand new card type in the game of Flesh and Blood. There are four mentors, okay? And a mentor is a card type wherein it has the mentor keyword that you can see right there. A mentor can only be put into a deck if your hero is young. And we don't quite know everything about mentors. And in fact, we only know 2 of 4 mentors in this set because each hero is going to be getting a mentor in their pre-con Blitz deck. So if you didn't know, they're releasing pre-con Blitz decks alongside of the, booster boxes set. So there's going to be Monarch booster boxes that you can buy, of course. And then there's going to be Monarch pre-con Blitz decks. And within those Blitz decks, you're going to find... well, for example, Lady Barthont. You're also going to find Minerva. Minerva, by the way, both of these have like huge story, like lore impacts. They're both incredibly important to their respective characters. Particularly, like Minerva is actually very important to multiple characters in the storyline. And I've actually had kind of some suspicions about her character within the lore in general, which we could talk about after we talk about Lady Barthont. But for example, Lady Barthont is the reason Levia is a shadow brute. And I won't go too far down the rabbit hole of the storyline, but it is because of Lady Barthont that Levia starts pursuing these dark arts and doing these rituals to gain power so that she can then break free of everyone, including Lady Barthont, that is sort of shackling her. And so in a way, in a very twisted way, Levia's like number one antagonist, Lady Barthont, is also her mentor because she's essentially like watching Lady Barthont do these horrific rituals and like writing it down while looking through the keyhole of a door and then like going and performing the rituals as well to gain power to go, get stronger and break free of, the clutches of Lady Barthont. Really good story, by the way. You should go check it out. You should go read Levia's storyline. So she's a brute mentor, which we can see in the top. And by the way, there's so many things to talk about. The art is fantastic. The art for these 2 cards, by the way, are done by, I think, 2 of my favorite artists that Legend Story Studios employs for the art in Flesh and Blood. This is done by Carlos Cruchaga, the same guy who did the very large kind of fresco angels versus demons fighting that you see everybody using, rightfully so, because it's breathtaking. He did this as well, and the fact that they chose to not only just present this to you as a full art card, but also with a very special bordering that doesn't get in the way of the art, that kind of lets it breathe, but also that feels very, unique and epic in and of itself with the filigree and the bannering. It's fantastic. And then, of course, Minerva is just... there's so many cool things about this card. Not just the art, but the way that this card works. Both of them, really, the way that these cards work is fantastic. I never expected. I am so blown away by this. And this one's done by, I think his name, is it Mikhail Spilhofter? I probably totally butchered that. I'm really sorry. Mikhail Spilhofter, something like that. But he's the guy that did the art for Shiana, which... and he did tons of art, actually. I shouldn't just pin it to one, but if you know his art, you know it as Shiana, right? And there's so many little things about this character. They're both so good. But let's start with Lady Barthont. What does she do? Well, you can only have her in your deck if your hero's young, so you're going to be playing her in Blitz. At the start of your turn, if Barthont is face down in your arsenal. So you have to arsenal this card somehow. You can turn her face up. Okay. When you turn her face up, then you have this next sort of step. Whenever you play an attack action card, banish the top card of your deck. You take it, you put it in the banish zone. If the banished card has 6 or more attack, the attack that you're playing gains dominate, and you put a lesson counter onto Lady Barthont's card. Then if there's 2 or more lesson counters on her, you banish her. So you've completed sort of the side quest. And this is exactly how they've described it in the gameplay video, and I think this is a great way to think about this card. It's sort of like a side quest in addition to actually being like a character. And we put it in the arsenal zone, and it takes your arsenal zone up. By the way, these were both spoiled originally by Noxious in a stream that he did like today. If I did my homework correctly, or if I'm did all the prep work, then this video is going out literally the same day. I 100% encourage you to go watch everything about that video. I'll link it in this video, and I'll put it in the description if I can remember to put it down there as well. Not only does he talk about these 2 mentor cards, he shows you everything in both Blitz decks. So if you're curious about what's in those precons, you 100% go watch that video, and you see what's in the list. You see that this is a Majestic and that there's a copy, and you want to go fetch this card. You buy the Blitz deck, and you have access to this. Now, it is a Brute mentor, so with it being a Brute mentor, you can only play it in Brute decks, but having access to this card is really, really cool. So I'm so off on tangents. I apologize. This is incredibly exciting. My mind is so blown by this set. Let's talk about what it does. Once you get both of those lesson counters, you banish her, and you go and get a specialization card from your deck, and then you put that into your arsenal, and you shuffle your deck. Okay, so that's like what happens when you go and fetch this card. And I would imagine that, like if the attack that you made that gets you the second counter has go again, refreshing your action point, that this doesn't take an action point to do. This is sort of like you trigger the effect, and then you complete the effect. And then if you had an action point, you could then go ahead and play the specialization if you had the resources in the action point. That's what I'm assuming. Now, that could be wrong. I apologize if it is, but I'm fairly certain that's how this works, which makes this incredibly cool. And that's even more important when we look at the next one as well. But this is essentially, if you can get it into your arsenal, and then if you can meet the requirement, then it's fetching you a specialization. And if you have watched any of the other videos that I've put out, particularly of like Levia or Chain cards, they have specializations. And if you're playing Blitz or anything like that, their legendary specialization, you can only include 1 copy of. So if you wanted to go and find that card, and you're waiting for it to show up during a 40-card deck Blitz match, then it could be one of the bottom cards of your deck. You could just be waiting for a long time to find that card because it's a 1 in 40, right? And there's no mulligan for you to try again off the top. This card allows you to more easily get to that card. You can almost consider that like a 2 in 40. Like, this is a second copy of it because it's going to fetch you the 1 copy, but you have to meet this secondary requirement, which is really smart. And it allows Legend Story Studios the opportunity to make a very powerful, hard to get, I don't want to say hard to get out of the deck, really, is what I'm shooting for. A very powerful specialization card, a legendary specialization card, and then give you an extra step to actually finding that. Either you can draw into it naturally, or you can use Lady Barthont's effect here by triggering her effect to go and find that card. But nevertheless, you have another avenue of actually going and getting it. Plus, this is also a really cool risk-reward thing, because once you put this into your arsenal and you flip it over, it's not going to really get removed unless your opponent plays like Command and Conquer and removes this from your arsenal, which is really cool because this is taking up your arsenal slot. Now, again, this is like brand new, so maybe they say in the comprehensive rules that they're going to release, you know what, you can also arsenal something along with her, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And I think this is really interesting risk-reward because it's taking up your arsenal slot in favor of you getting a very powerful card perhaps down the line. So Lady Barthont allows you, by playing and banishing 6 or more attacks cards and hitting with them, she allows you to go and find something from your deck. She also just gives you the dominate keyword on top, which is fantastic. On to Minerva. Minerva is not only important for Bolton, who you will find her in the Bolton deck. She's also important for Dorinthia, because Dorinthia spends a lot of her time as a child in the Golden Chariot, and Minerva is the owner of the Golden Chariot Inn and Tavern, right? That's so she owns this, and she knows the Iron Song family, and she knows Dorinthia, and she knows other warriors and other patrons of the Golden Chariot Tavern, and one of those is Bolton, mentioned in his story that was posted about a week ago when they announced Bolton. He's mentioned that he's like sitting in the Golden Chariot and, listening to stories like he's done many times with his, kind of compatriots, that sort of thing. So she has a ton of impact within the game. And so she has her own card. She's not a hero, but she has her own card. And honestly, I'm really, from a lore perspective, not even looking at her card for a second, from her lore, I'm really interested in this character because the way she's portrayed in the Dorinthia storyline when Dorinthia is a child is not exactly that she's, like old, or or young, I guess is a better way to say it. She's not exactly young because her parents are said to have known Minerva, when they were younger. And now she's younger. She's described as having like a white streak in her hair, and she's gotten a little older since Dorinthia last saw her. But we have her here portrayed she looks a lot younger than I would have expected. So that's very interesting to me. And the fact that she's just kind of this mainstay character for multiple people makes me go, is there something more to her? Nevertheless, she is a mentor that you can include in your deck if your hero's young. And you could include it in a Bolton deck because he's a warrior. And you could include it in a Dorinthia deck. And technically, unless I'm wrong here, you can include it in a Kasai deck as well. And if that's the case, then it makes her way more interesting from a mentor perspective because she has multiple utilities and multiple slots that she can fit into. So what does she do? At the start of your turn, if she's face down, you can flip her face up. Again, she takes up the arsenal slot. One-handed weapons you control have +1. If you're playing Bolton and you're playing the axe weapons, then giving those +1 does wonders for what Bolton wants to do going forward, right? Because you're giving a buff to those weapons, and you're triggering like multiple different types of effects that go on with Bolton, who's a very complex character in his own right. Whenever a weapon you control hits, put a lesson counter on her. Once you've reached 3 lesson counters or more, you banish her, search your deck for a specialization card, and put it face up into your arsenal, then shuffle your deck. And again, I'm fairly certain that if you've gained Go Again off of your third lesson counter hit, essentially, then you'd be able to, pop Minerva, swap her for a specialization card from your deck, and then play that specialization, continuing things going forward. I'm fairly certain that's possible. Now, if it's not, again, I apologize, but this is literally brand new information, and my mind is like going a mile a minute because there's so many implications to cards like these. It's amazing. It's fantastic. And the fact that this just does good things for you all around. If this fits into a Kasai deck, and again, I'm assuming it can because Kasai is a warrior, and Minerva goes into a warrior deck because she's a warrior mentor, If that's the case, then giving Centauri Sabers +1 is just as beneficial, right? Because you're just threatening even more damage than you were before. Now, obviously, it makes a ton of sense playing in a Bolton deck because there are so many benefits that you get from giving like weapons and that sort of stuff +1, or just any buff whatsoever, because it triggers a lot more effects. But even just saying, okay, well, all of my swords or my Centauri Sabers are now 3s, and they could be buffed to 4s. That's dangerous. That's really dangerous, and that's really cool. Now, there is one thing that I'm curious about in this sort of setup with mentors, and it's this. Do we get, and this, I may have missed this information in Noxious's stream, do we get 2 copies of this card in each Blitz deck? Do we get 1? Are we limited to 1 in a deck, or do we get 2? That's what I'm curious about. I'll have to go back and maybe I can look this up right before I post the video, and I can put like a little text blurb over me talking right here and give you an answer. I'd love to give you a straight answer, but mentors are a thing we're going to see 2 more mentors because we need an illusionist mentor. I wonder who would spoil an illusionist mentor. I mean, I have no clue. Who would spoil a mentor of someone who was discovered in a library and is a bookworm who loves learning? I have no clue. It's certainly not a magister that's going to be the mentor. The mentor is not going to be a magister, even though that kind of does strike me as being a magister because the story said it was a magister. Anyway, it's probably a magister. But who could spoil it? Who knows? And, I guess we have Chain's mentor. I guess Chain was part of it from the lore perspective, was part of a cult of self-mutilation. So we can expect something just sufficiently disgusting for his mentor as well. And I would imagine that we will see those spoilers sooner rather than later, now that we know that this is a card type. This is crazy. The fact that we have another new thing to the game, this set is bonkers, everyone. This set is so bonkers. Oh my goodness. I'm floored. I hope you guys enjoy this this new development to the game of Flesh and Blood, because it's blowing my mind. I don't even know what we're going to see next. And I think that's the most fun part about all of this, is we have no clue. What are we going to see next from this set, from this game? I don't know, and I'm having a fantastic time. I hope you guys are as well. Hey, check it out. If you are having a fantastic time, feel free to make that number up there become this number there. If you do that, I'll be floored as well, because that number on my last video, like a day ago, was under 3,400, and now it's there, and I'm totally surprised by that. I looked at it like a couple of minutes before starting the video. I was like, wait a minute, what? This can't be right. You guys are amazing. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.